Second.
I second.
Sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public comment. If you're going to talk about something that's on the agenda further down, please hold your comments until that. So anybody? Yeah? Okay. No, you don't have any issues you want to say? Okay. Speak now or forever hold. Okay. Superintendent remarks.
So, we had planned to have a track and field groundbreaking, but they ruined it. Basically, the contractor wants in like now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so they're coming in right after spring break, kicking down fences. Doing. We were going to have groundbreaking on the 4th of May, but by then the ground will be gone. So there you go.
So Toby's
No
genius
cow pipe bingo?
money-making idea.
Keep talking about
cow
this.
pipe bingo.
It's cow pipe
Cow
bingo.
pipe bingo going on.
No, it's ours. Yeah, Brandy broke the news to me this week. That's sad.
Did she tell the track and field people that was going on?
Yes.
How about the bubble run for PPSA,
Oh, right.
April 21st?
That should be okay.
That'll be okay. Yeah.
Probably safer if they were coming up.
Just tearing that back fence down. But anyway, so that's exciting. And we're going to see a lot of stuff going on right away.
So that's the 21st?
But they're very eager to get in here because they have like 3 or 4 fields to put in this year. So they're very eager about getting in here doing
Oh,
ours.
yeah.
Neighbor care dedication was scheduled for the 20th, but now it's going to be scheduled maybe for the 5th or the Friday after that of May. So we don't know yet. I think they're still trying to chase down Dow Constantine for that. But we want to do the neighbor care dedication and the art dedication on the same day, so we're hoping we can do that on May 5th, which is a Friday, right? Okay.
It's Saturday, isn't it?
4th then, Friday the whatever.
Through the magic.
Okay, the 4th, May 4th. That didn't sound quite right. Then, we spoke about elementary conferences last week and about surveying them, and Rebecca was on that and sent out a survey monkey to staff and the parents. The parent survey is really positive. They really liked having the spring conferences and a lot of support for it. And I only saw one negative comment in the whole pile. And so I think that the staff isn't as clear about that, and there's more conversation to have in terms of what adjustments they might want to make about the protocols for it, maybe even some of the timing around it as well. So, but generally positive there too. A lot of people liked it. So anyway, the survey was done, and it looks good.
Great.
That's it.
Okay. Toby.
Not yet. Maybe you might tell me circles around.
No. I just want to congratulate you and us again on completing the superintendent selection process.
You can sleep now.
Sabette has been like therapist, lobbyist, executive throughout the whole thing, so I think she did a great job keeping us all in line, and we had a very successful result, so I'm very pleased. Good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something that. Okay, well that's quick. I was laughing with Jody that we have a lot of approval minutes. I don't think we've ever had such a list of minutes to approve.
This is a record.
This is just so many, and just back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And Jody, Amy, do you want to say anything about anything? Any hiring, anybody, all good?
Oh, you're talking about the agenda? No, I think we've touched on everything. We are in kind of a mad frenzy of hiring right now, so we should see several more names next agenda, and then hopefully, I'm not even going to say aloud, that we might be wrapping it up before October this year.
And are these changes FTE neutral?
These are FTE neutral going into next year, yes.
Yeah. against the budget.
Well, yes, the budget we're working on here.
Say you've had some good success with special ed hiring.
That is true. We've been incredibly fortunate. The two people that are on the agenda tonight both come with outstanding experience. Annie is coming from a background of early childhood mental health, has worked in a therapeutic setting and has also been in a teaching setting, and will be coming in as our new early childhood special ed teacher. And then Allie has been teaching in California for 15 years, is actually married to an Island graduate, and they're moving back up. And we've been in conversation with both of them since about this time last year. We tried to get them for this year, and neither one of them were quite ready to make the leap. But they've both been for the upcoming year, and we're very excited about that.
And are they both applying for here?
Are they both?
Applying to work here, both?
No, they are on your agenda.
Yeah,
They're hired.
They're hired.
The spouse.
Oh,
Graduate spouse.
No.
When she said both, I think she meant both of the.
oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
both, like both of these people. on the
Yeah,
agenda.
it was a little
Okay.
ambiguous
That's all
there.
right.
Okay.
So I move we approve the consent agenda with thanks for the PTSA
Yeah,
donation.
thank you for that. A second?
Second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Excellent. Okay. 6A. We have, in your packet is there's somewhere, there's a contract, you all have seen it. And so we just need to, we can just approve this right now, which, since we've all been looking at it and we've all been talking about it, it would be nice if we could just bypass the 2-meeting rule for this. I think this qualifies for special occasions.
It's been specifically discussed.
It has been very specifically discussed. Thank you for everybody's input. Thank you for everyone's input. So, do
I move we approve the contract.
I second that.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so, I think everyone in the room knows Dr. Slade Nishiki, but would you want to stand up and say hello, and we're so happy you're here, and introduce
Absolutely.
your fabulous family?
Hi, nice to meet you folks. Yes, I'm gonna first introduce my wife, Kelly. So she has taken on the challenge and the adventure as well, and thank you very much, Amy, for reaching out to us, because we're going to be reaching out with you. And then my youngest son sitting next to her is Gus, and that's our Gus. And then my oldest boy, Hank, he's 13, but they're going to be going into 6th and 8th grade here, so we're extremely excited about that. Kelly has been talking about the lambs now for since we were up here. It was a great process. I do want to say that it's an honor to be invited. I can't tell you how excited I am, but I can't tell you how honored I am to follow in your footsteps too. I've heard from everybody from top to bottom, left to right, that this is a wonderful place to be, and a lot in part to your work. So I appreciate that very much. And I can't tell you also about the number of folks who have reached out to me. So some people might think, 120 emails is too much. I'm just kidding, only about 110. So I exaggerated a little bit about that, but it really does show, I think, why I wanted to be here. And so thank you very much, and I can't wait to get started. So.
To our family,
All right.
official professional shirt.
Okay.
And we are eagerly awaiting pictures of pancakes.
All right. 'Cause I got the new organizational chart, and it said that my name on the top said in charge of everything, and And I felt like, okay, I will add Chief Pancake Flipper to that. So, thank you very much.
High standards here.
Excellent. Well, so thank you. So obviously stay as long as you want, but I can imagine that you guys want to stay the whole time. Do you have a comment?
What does oath mean?
What a good question.
So there's Q's on the shirt. O is for orca, which is the Chautauqua orcas, and M is for Mustang, which you guys will be Mustangs, and P is for pirate.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so moving on. 6B, first student contract amendment. Matt, do you want to?
Yes, discussed last meeting, it's ready for your approval.
Okay.
And just incorporating some of their,
Correct. The main goal of that was so the bus driver minimum wage moved up from $13.30 to $15 next year.
Which is in keeping with
What we've done across the board.
district. And so it has a little bit of an impact this budget cycle, but then next time it just kind of, hopefully, we'll just go back down to normal.
And a part of that will be, we're going into negotiations and, well, this time next year, another 5-year possible contract with first student, or we have to go out to bid, might be Durham, but most likely first student.
it's all Tweedledee or Tweedledum, right?
It's really two, that's about it.
Right, okay, so do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, anyone opposed? Excellent, passes. The school safety, Michael, do you want to do this one?
Yeah, this is Resolution 760. Look in your red folder for this, because there was one suggested word change. And I don't know how firm we landed on considers instead of regulates, but that was the only suggested change at the time.
That's it? Does anybody have, I know, I think we all are in agreement that this is a good statement, but there's more to do than just a piece of paper.
Right. Does it still include the second page? It's not.
No. Oh, well, not in the resolution itself, but I see that going on the website with the resolution. Yeah.
Okay, so any discussion about this?
Yeah, there's nothing in this I disagree with, but I don't want to see us turning into the Seattle City Council. I'm not sure I'm going to vote for it.
Okay.
Is that because you think it's just window dressing? Or
I think it's window dressing. I think it's saying the right thing. You know, I mean, it is the right thing as far as I'm concerned, but I don't want to see us be into, you know, making the correct gesture as opposed to doing something.
Well, I guess I'm in consideration of what's the purpose of doing this, or what are pros and cons of doing it or not doing it. I definitely see your point, but I think in my mind, as we've kind of talked through it and had these conversations, there seem to be more pros to issuing something like this for the community. So I think that there's really no harm in doing it, and in fact that I think that it would really be a positive thing to do, as opposed to silence around the issue, because silence sends its own message.
Jody, anything? Any thoughts on this one?
I appreciate where Dan's coming from. I think it's sort of in the same vein as having a racial equity policy. If you're going to have a policy, that's great, but you have to back it up with more than just policy. And I think the same principle certainly applies here. I think the majority of the community parents feel like this is something that they would support the school district doing, having an affirmative statement like this to connect, to rally around, so I'm not opposed to it either. I don't understand, if we use the word considers, that doesn't make any sense to me, so I'm just wordsmithing over here in my head.
That's a reasonable.
I understand it's to soften the language, it seems less like controversial, yeah.
Well, maybe effectively manages access to firearms, and
That's better than considers.
yeah. You know, we don't like the word regulate, because that sounds too law-y, like we're trying to activate, then I think manages or controls or something that speaks to reducing the access without making it sound like legislation necessarily.
Well, of course it's legislation, but I know.
I like manages better than considers.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't really think I took issue with the word regulates, but I think it will be increasing the chances of it being well received by a wider audience if you use something like that. Seems like a good word.
That is more of a broad
Seems a little more.
spectrum of solutions on the table.
Okay, so do we want to vote on this as amended then? Is there
I think we
a
should.
proposal?
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion
I move that we approve this resolution
as amended?
as amended, using
Manages.
manages.
Okay. Second, okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain, okay, so it passes 4-0. Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you, Michael, for working on that. And I think we are all in agreement that that is, we've done that part, and now we need to do more.
So a couple words about that,
Yeah?
about the more.
Yeah.
Kevin and Matt and I are going to be meeting with the 3 faculties and staff in the buildings. We have one, within the first 2 weeks of coming back from spring break, we'll get to all of them. And the idea there is to go in and ask questions and get comments about concerns about safety as well as security. So what we're doing in terms of safety around drills and around building protocols, signage, those kinds of things. And then in terms
Excuse me a second, Michael, when you're talking about safety, you're talking in terms of more comprehensive thing in natural disasters and fires and whatever, or are you talking a different aspect of the...
I think we're mostly focused on active shooters in this conversation.
So the difference between safety and security is...
Well, security to me is more related to the physical plant. And so would we build a fence around the whole property? Would we change the bars on the doors? Would we, how far do we go?
Okay, I just didn't get the distinction.
Yeah, that's the distinction. And the safety planning is really about drills and those kinds of things. But just to get, the staff feels so vulnerable right now after Parkland and, well, after years and years of this craziness. So I want to just have an opportunity to hear from them about what their concerns are around both safety and security with the distinction we just went through. And then, the district does have a safety committee, but I think we'll need to expand that. I'm inviting Toby and Zabet to come to these meetings once we get them set up, if their schedules will allow, because I think it's important for the board to be closely connected to this one. I think where we go from there, what was it, Matt? In 2016, we did have a security review of the entire site with a team that came in and took a look at it, and they've dealt with many of the recommendations and suggestions that were sort of low-hanging fruit and not too expensive. But I think where this may evolve to is that as a school community, we'll have to make some decisions about how we want to live in this culture relative to the kinds of provisions we make for building security. And that's a conversation. I think Slade's going to finish the conversation. I think I'm going to get started. but it's an important time. And perhaps it'll lead to some more immediate things we could do over the summer. You know, it may inform that right away. But if we decided, for example, that we were going to reconfigure the front of Chautauqua so that everybody got buzzed in or something like that, that would be a major construction project. And I'm not recommending that. I don't think we should do it. But if we all came to that kind of thing, then we'd be looking at creating some kind of a capital plan that might go 2 or 3 years out if we were going to make those kinds of major changes. So anyway, that's what we're doing, talking about.
I just want to say I've sent the board a couple newspaper articles, and my intent of that is just to kind of like throw out, different alternatives of what other school districts have done. I'm not necessarily proposing that we do any of those specific things, but just to give a flavor of what's happening in other similar rural remote districts and how they've chosen to address the issue and then communicate it to the community. So that's what that's about.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
I do wonder if we need a position, part of a position or a consulting contract with somebody who would be in charge of security. That has been on my mind from the standpoint of having, someone that's working more directly. No one here really has that in their portfolio job to do. And we're all kind of doing it as part of what we do. So that may emerge as a recommendation out of this too, just from the standpoint of having somebody really have their eye on that.
If there's any grant money that is available, because I think every school district's going to deal with this. It's not part of the planned budget. These things could get quite expensive. You have to make difficult decisions with limited information or limited background. So maybe somewhere some grant funds will become available.
I would hope that the feds and the state would both make that a priority in terms of some allocations for that. And I hear, we hear from vendors all the time that want to come in and, consult with us and drill with us. And the last vendor I heard from this week said, oh, well, there is going to be a grant for emergency buzzers, panic buttons that you can put in every classroom. And this person happened to be selling panic buttons.
Fear
Well, there's got to be a growth industry right now.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So bring on the panic buttons.
Well, I do I appreciate you recognizing that ultimately there's a choice that we have to make around what type of culture we want to support and where we want the kids and the staff to be every day. And that's significant as an element to consider.
Yeah, there's research to consider too about whether fortifying the building and campus is really, how effective that really is at the end of the day. So there's research to be considered as well.
Yeah, I think that, and really, I'm very interested in all the things that you've been sending us, but that's where I was tracking all of this. And so the idea that it's at least one person is named as the responsible party to be reviewing all that information, because there's quite a bit out there now, and really helping us understand what the options are, and then out of those options, what's going to fit best with the kind of culture we have in our community and our district. So I think it would be way too much if we really want to do it well, for people just sort of trying to piecemeal it if it's not their area of expertise.
Something you may not know, or I'm not sure I ever said, but we are a member of the VISD Safety Co-op. And so we're one of, I think, 27 school districts that have joined the co-op. I think we're paying like $2,500 a year to be a part of it. And Winnie is our representative to that. And so the two of us kind of work together in terms of...
What is that? What are the benefits of being in that co-op?
In the co-op?
Just informational?
No, there's a lot of training. So Winnie and I went last August for a 2-day training there, and there's a 1-day training that's going to happen this August. It's really a broad brush in terms of taking a look at how your emergency manual covers a whole variety of things. I think earthquake is actually our greatest risk here. It's way greater than any kind of a shooter statistically. And then it's a place where all of the current laws and the current regulations and the grants and all that stuff gets funneled through there as well, so that we're up to date and we don't have to have, in a small district, have one person that's trying to figure all that out. We can stay connected to them. They're also expanding that co-op to a second co-op, which is a threat assessment co-op. But it's a student threat assessment. So from the standpoint that they come in and they teach a level 1, train a level 1 and a level 2 team how to do an assessment of individual students who get referred to the team for perhaps being a threat in some way. And this team is trained up in terms of how to do that. And that's getting to be quite common now too. Most school districts have threat assessment teams. We have a loosely formed protocol for that, but I'm thinking we'll probably join that. I don't think it'll cost too much money. And it's another way, because honestly, in terms of the whole shooter thing, I think the biggest and best investment we've made has been in our mental health programs.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and in knowing every kid and bringing all of the mental health resources in here through Consejo and Youth and Family Services and Neighbor Care, and you know, we really have wrapped services around kids in a profound way in the last 3 or 4 years. And I think that's the best value, is doing that.
Yeah.
Knowing that
That's all the other benefits, aren't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Not just
My sense is that
preventive,
there are a couple of cultural dimensions to all this, from keeping kids from feeling isolated, picked on, and then also having people alert.
Yeah, so,
You know, like having a limited number of access points, it doesn't matter if nobody's watching them.
right.
Yeah, right, the monitors, like the monitors that you have, the video
Yeah.
cameras and
Yeah.
who's watching.
Being on 100 acres with forests circled all around you isn't exactly, you know, the best scenario according to all the risk assessment. But it's how we live, so.
We'll be interested in how those talks go with the administrators and what you learn from them about what they feel like they'd like to see to increase their health safety.
I think staff just want to feel safe and they want to know as much as they can know about what to do.
Is your sense of discomfort stems mostly from having to be the first responder group versus the actual incident? Or do they feel personally at risk and they aren't comfortable with the first responder role? Or I'm just curious. You don't know.
Well,
You haven't
with
talked about it.
staff as a first responder themselves,
Yeah.
they haven't really been trained for it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they feel secure in it and wouldn't. Why would they? And I think that they're really looking to know as much as they can know and to know how to respond and to know what the options are. And it keeps changing all the time too, right? You know that when we were doing most of our major drilling 2 years ago, they hadn't really thought of run, hide, fight. You know, and now the protocols run, hide, fight, and no one's been trained in that. You know, so it keeps changing too.
One thing I'll mention just really quickly and move on is that I think I said the other day that there's a coalition that's formed from that meeting that Yvette and I attended, and now the meeting's coming up in a couple weeks, but it's Dove, Sportsman's Club, VYFS, Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, I'm probably missing one.
I think the gun shop owner might come.
The gun shop owner, and I think the Sheriff's Department, King County Sheriff's Department is also to be looped in. So, and that's really around trying to, again, in the past, the comprehensive lock up your guns campaign. But I think we're on an island, so it's not like you can't get a gun, but just to try to minimize access to firearms. So it's kind of exciting, involving so many different people within the community. And it's not about what's your stance on the Second Amendment or, gun control, but really partnering for gun safety to keep kids safe. So we'll keep you posted.
What's that going to be? Is there a date out yet?
Yes,
Oh, there
we
is?
just set the date. It's at the library. I'll let you guys know exactly the date. And it's a Wednesday and...
Before school's out.
It's after spring break.
Yeah.
And you're attending for?
I am, not as a school board member, but
No?
as a community member, unless we want to have me be participating. Yeah, I think I heard in the past that maybe Well, why don't we talk about that later? But I mean, if you have some recommendations or about that, we can talk about it now, but I think I thought I don't know, that maybe it seemed kind of controversial, but to have the school district involved when it happened in the past, because it happened 3 years ago, they told me about us, a gun, lock up your gun campaign, and I imagine.
I think what it was 3 years ago is that some members of the PTSA wanted the school district to sponsor gun safety classes here. And I said, no, that's really not our mission. That would be some sportsman's club would do or something like that. And I think the impression began to be formed is that we were like, we don't want anything to do with that. And that wasn't it. It was just like, why would we take that on? So that's what that was.
Makes sense.
So, really to be continued.
Yeah. I'll never.
Yeah. Yeah, and then to be continued this late. Okay, so, Matt Sullivan, you're going to present a report to the board.
I'm really happy to announce our annual state audit wrapped up the end of last week. We had our exit conference on Monday. We received another humbly perfect and clean audit from the state of Washington. I can't emphasize enough, this was a very long audit. It was about 6 weeks. It cost the district about $27,000. They were living on site with us every day for those 6 weeks. It went over our financial side, of course, dollars and cents. It went over accountability, which is how we process policies, procedures, the law affects us, and then also single audit, which is our federal monies. If I might, I wanted to share with you some of the effusive, glowing language that the auditors gave to us. They reported no deficiency in our financial statements. Glowingly, they noted that no instances of non-compliance or material for financial statements of the district also. So
Bring it through the eye.
they really let us have it. Also, I really want to thank Amy and the district office staff, Tiffany Rice, our payroll officer, Kay Adams, our finance manager, One Myers, our fiscal coordinator, and Heather Sutton, our admin assistant. It's really the core of that group that handles, really that financial, that accountability, that single audit day in, day out. They did just a wonderful job, and couldn't have done it without all of them, all of us doing that. So, thanks to them.
Thank you. Good job.
I want to commend Matt for a minute on this. Over the past 3 years, Matt has taken a business office practice that was sufficient but not great and turned it into one that's really great. And has done that by hiring really well, but also providing opportunities for everybody to grow. And so it is really a happy, fun team back there. I love going back there and just hanging out because it's so fun. But they're really smart, they're really capable, and we've had 3 clean audits in the past 3 years. But it has to do with how Matt's managed that. And our practice is top notch. It's very, very good.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay, Kevin, you're doing
We started at the top of the mountain. I think we're gonna try to, we're gonna tune in for the night.
yeah,
We'll talk later.
Why do you have a gavel?
because this is how I officially start the meeting and how I end the meeting.
And if there's rabble-rousers.
And if any of my,
Like that, go for
anybody on
me.
the board gets a little out of hand,
Are there usually gavels in every board meeting?
this kind of board meeting, yeah, a school district board meeting, yeah. You should go to more different school district meetings, check them out.
I don't really want to.
See you later.
Good night.
Are you here tomorrow, Slade?
Yes. Yeah, I'll be here. We're doing something more, but I'm here at 12. Actually, here someone's taking. I think Jerry's going to take my picture,
Oh,
Yeah, right.
and then I'm going to be with the
At
high
12:30?
school. 12:30 with the QSA.
I'll meet you here.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. All right.
Okay, thanks for bringing your family, they were troopers.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Okay,
Coast annual asset preservation program, basically it's a report that you guys have looked over. We have to basically go in and update the information on the conditions of Chautauqua School, the covered play area, and the high school due to a grant that we received. As you can see, the numbers are pretty much the same, a little bit off based on how we evaluate things. The language is that we're supposed to show some depreciation in our facilities, but in some cases there were some improvements. So we improved the lighting in the covered play area, which pulled the numbers up. And for the most part, numbers stayed fairly close to the same. The high school, there was a little bit depreciation. Go to the categories here. We know that certain areas need to be redone, so kind of all the nice woodworking that we have in high school, over 3 years of wear and tear, needs some love. So we need to do a little bit of work around that. Some of the, as the foundations start to settle, we've been noticing some of the hardware with the doors needing to be replaced and reset and readjusted. The other thing that's been big is window coverings. Just with the style of blinds that they chose for the high school. Due to the length, the cords are starting to break on the blinds, and so we have a fair number that needs to be dealt with. So,
are you going to replace the blinds with blinds, or are you going to replace them, like you were saying the other day, with rolling shade?
So we did a. I think we're going to go with the rolling shades. Is my hope. It costs roughly $250 to order the style of blinds that are in there now. And we did the math, and it would cost us roughly around $95 to produce them ourselves. And so that's without turnaround.
Wow.
Produce roller blades.
Yes. Produce roller shades, yes.
Who does the rating? Is this a self-assessment, or is there someone who comes in and...
So we do them, I think it's every 4 years that we have to get a official certified BCA consultant to come in and do the work. I think for next year, we're up for Chautauqua for a certified BCA consultant to come in. And then once that happens, then we're back on the normal schedule of us being able to do that.
If I may, the overriding onus of us doing this is so that we can receive monies when we provide for bonds, such as the high school received almost $3 million subsidy on top of the bond we passed, the $47 million bond. So as we do these kind of upkeep and monitoring, noting of conditions of our buildings, we have the opportunity potentially to receive, if we renovate a McMurray or a Chautauqua, more money from the state. So they're kind of monitoring our progress and the upkeep of our buildings.
With the idea that we take care of the investments we've made.
Exactly.
Cool.
Sorry, America.
That's good. And that's pretty much it. If you guys have questions.
No surprises there.
Was there, yeah, I was going to say, were there anything that jumped out to you that said, no, we hadn't thought of that?
I think it's pretty much self-explanatory in this process.
Even with the unsightly baseball goals.
I know, that's what unsightly, like that's a deficiency, is unsightly. Because what's my unsightly may be different than that seems really subjective. That's why I went there, really. Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Kevin. Okay, this is the real reason we're here. Budget planning.
Two items for tonight. As a board, obviously we present in January the budget calendar, and kind of our race to the finish to the end of June to adopt our budget prior to the RCW requirements. Two items tonight. One is fund balance projections, which once again, this is a page in the budget. So By the time it's all said and done, you will probably have seen almost half the budget has been presented to you, or pages thereof, and this is one of the pages. It is not complete in regard to fund balance, and mainly due to the fact that 18-19 is not there because we have still yet to have OSBI put up the F203, which is the online tool that we can then take a look at real revenues for next year, which obviously generates everything.
And that won't go up until?
No, and they put it back, pushed it out further. Instead of mid-April, now it's early May. Yeah. Which, we'll get there, it'll be fine. It wasn't like last year when we were in July adopting the budget. We'll be on time, we should adopt our budget, obviously first hearing in June, and then adopt it end of June. But once again, you'll have seen almost the entire document by the time that public hearing rolls around the first part of June.
And how much uncertainty is there about the amount?
I don't think there's that much at this point. Myself and Kay Adams did our due diligence. We really spent days with the PSESD and their financial team. We have a pretty good idea of where we'll be. We believe we'll receive about $450,000, about $500,000 more in revenue for next year. So we know that within that range, we should be right there. If it's off in any large number, I would be stunned at this point. But we have a pretty good idea, but we really can't move forward. It's required, the F203 for us to do that. Submit it to the ESD so they can approve it also, so that we're all on the same page with the budget. And will be early May. What we're doing is, you can see, everything we can. Up to that point, Amy's working on budget with personnel on her side. We have our MSOC budget loaded from all the meetings we held with the budget managers, principals, office managers, department heads, division heads. We're ready to roll at this point. And hence the next page is, the highest priority adjustments to the budget, and then possible adjustments if there's additional dollars, which we know how that works. So.
Are we going to be able to restore last year's budget cut to the material supplies?
Yes. Yes, that's queued up in the
So
budget. We
it's already-
assume
So
that
we can go above the line there? That's how I think of it, is like.
we should be static in regard to, we won't be cutting MSOC, we should be,
So we won't be restoring, we'll be status quo. from
we'll be
last year.
status quo at this point.
That's the assumption at this point,
Right, I mean, that is.
without really knowing, but
Right.
you can see on the things above the line there, if Matt's projecting $400,000 or $500,000 more in state money coming in, remember, we have less levy money coming in, right? So, 4 or 5,000, 100,000 coming in, just the salary increases that we've agreed to for next year is going to be 300,000. So there's not going to be a lot to play with.
And there are these requirements, not requirements per se, but, there's an insurance to our, increase to our insurance premium of $35,000. There's, transportation contract increase. Those are things that are, I'd say required, because it's required that we have to do those things.
Right. I love that we have to increase the food staffing service because all those children because the food is so good. What I'm
That's
thinking is we
increasing
don't make
each
the
year.
food so good, we don't have to hire someone.
Well, there's a little truth in that. Yeah. Food service acts as almost an enterprise fund,
Right.
revenue
Yeah,
and expenditure, so it stays
Yeah.
pretty flush.
The increase of the transportation contract, is that what we just?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's, and then the insurance premium, is that go up about that amount every year, or what's
No,
right?
this is a significant increase. It's just a 2 or 3% each year usually.
Yeah.
This is significant. It is around, not specific to us, but around sexual harassment, bullying. That's across the board for all the 95 odd school districts that are underneath the risk pool.
So we automatically just have increased
Right,
liability.
right.
and
Yes.
so-
I love
Risk
that
pool
everyone
has
else-
settled.
Yeah.
Yes, percentage to their budget. yeah.
Many big sexual abuse cases.
Mm.
And that's the abuse cases that they're settling. It's wiped out their balance.
Mhm.
We'll probably see these increases for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
So what goes into the special education local support? What is that exactly?
That's more of a true bullet point. That is kind of this bow wave that we have now accounted for in the budget. That's what we're subsidizing, if you will, special education year to year.
Okay.
It's just what we're doing.
This is for the whole program.
Right, and this is where, yes, correct. This is where we have applied, like this year, for something called safety net, which is when a district has to subsidize special education, we then say, hey, we're doing this much amount, 400,000, can you help us out in safety net? And we're asking for over 104,000 this year, and hopefully we'll see that to kind of offset that, those expenses.
Are the items in the second group, are they ranked at all?
No.
Not that it makes any difference, because we probably won't have to do it.
I don't think we'll get to many of those.
There's one that kind of jumps out, or I guess two, the ones that say sustain the K-5 science position and sustain the Avid Pathways program. Does that mean that those programs would go away? I mean, they're active now, they require this funding.
Right.
If they don't get this.
Well,
then
but
they-
Avid's changing the high school anyway,
Right.
but,
Avid's changing. Some of these would be new added costs. You're picking up the distinctions in here now. Some
Yeah.
of these would actually be new added costs, and some of these, like the K-5 science position, was in the budget this year, and it's currently in the lower. However, it would probably, if we had to go in and cut, it would probably be one of the things we have to look at. That would probably be pretty high on the list in terms of saying if we had to cut it, that would be one.
So sustaining in the sense that we're doing it now, but absent extra money, we're not going to be doing it next year.
That money's really got to come in. Yeah.
Even then, in that, we go back to...
And Matt kind of said the same thing. Did you guys restore in your assumptions, you've restored the 15%?
We've restored,
no.
we've kept that cut.
You've kept the cut?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And the schools are fine. It's not an issue.
It's not an issue for a year or two.
Right.
What's
The
Pathways?
cumulative cut is hard.
What is the Pathways program?
Pathways is an alternative program that runs 3 periods a day at the high school for kids who need they do a lot of their basic core programs through Odysseyware, an online program, and they're together really most of the time for 3 periods a day. And it's just for kids who aren't going to connect really well with the regular mainstream program. The Student Link alternative isn't quite right for them either, and allows one teacher to kind of be connected with these kids for a longer period.
Parallars is doing that.
Parallels.
Do you know how many kids approximately participate in that?
It's like the Dorsey.
20 to 25, I think, is what I see.
A full classroom.
And the Avid they have a different name for it. They call it independent living, or independent.
That's what it's
Going to that
Yeah,
next year.
and it's freshman and senior year. I just saw it.
But that's primarily a study skills, organizational and study skills, that's what it's going to be.
That's class.
Every child is signed up for it.
Yeah.
Want to get them organized as soon as possible.
This all kind of dovetails with that first page of fund balance as we were trying, and the auditors as an exit item, which is not a management letter or a finding whatsoever, it's not that severe, but they are harping on our fund balance. I think they harp on a lot of districts' fund balance, but ours in particular, that we're not where we need to be. They want us to see a 60-day, 90-day fund balance, which is upwards of $3 million, which I don't think we're going to achieve, nor necessarily should we. But lately around the 1.4, 1.5. And you notice we are building it back slowly from the leaner years with the sped influx with previous 2 years, but we're getting it back up there.
And you've gone over this before, and I'm sorry, I don't remember. The auditor's concern is total fund balance or the unallocated portions of it?
Total fund balance, yeah.
So,
Right.
So I want to say again what Matt said earlier, because what tends to happen is the budget moves really fast. You know, we're kind of like slow, and then all of a sudden that F203 is going to come. You'll get to see it then probably the second board meeting in May would be your first look. And then there's 2 board meetings in June and we're done. So the first board meeting in June would be the first reading of the budget, and the second board meeting in June would be the second reading. So I think board members always get a little frustrated that they don't have enough time to get their thumbprint on the budget. But it's going to be the same scenario this year because we're always pushed right up to the last minute.
I mean, we're frustrated too, and we want to see it now. I personally am presenting the details to you and where the revenues are going, and what fund, and what the expenditures are, project versus program right now. And we should have it now, but we don't.
And so we will not actually know how much we're getting until after May 15th.
It could be a little bit earlier, but yes, effectively.
But yes,
Yeah.
that May 15th deadline is again
Right.
a challenge.
Yeah.
What a wacky way to run a business.
But by then, and about now, they'll have all the staffing loaded in that we project for next year. They'll have all of the MSOCs, anything that's not staffing loaded in. So we'll know the expense side.
Right. It's not the revenue.
And so when the revenue shows up, you either go, phew, or you go, oh, crud.
Yeah, right.
You know, and it's usually a little bit of both. Most of the time, Matt walks in and says, oh, we're $300,000 out. And I go, go fix it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can we do a do-it-yourself sensory room for less than $50,000 to get started?
I'm recommending the superintendent's office.
Not a sensory overload room.
We don't have an estimate on that, Reagan.
That's just a placeholder
We just
number.
pulled the number out.
Yeah.
We don't have an estimate or a plan or, we don't have a room.
That seems like something we could start modestly,
What
though.
district used, who did we hear this from? The district that used a container?
No.
Shipping container? We modified it, they put some flowers in there.
To be Christmas.
What?
They're kind of hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, people live in them now.
Go put them in.
You know, it probably, that's probably more expensive than, the shipping container probably. more expensive.
$2,500 for a container.
We have extra, we have to say we have extra.
Oh, well, there you go.
We have extra on us.
Okay, Matt, thank you very much. Any other,
No, thank you.
It's just,
And when we get those numbers, you'll be the first to get them when we have them solidified, and let's take our time, dig into it in a meeting and go at it. Good.
okay, great. Are you also doing the surplus property stuff?
Yes, this is kind of what happens, so, how to say this? So with the bond, all the projects, and the teacher's furniture at the new teacher furniture coming in at McMurray, and the complete new classroom furniture coming here at Chautauqua, of course, crossing the T's and dotting our I's so we can get another perfect audit next year. We need to have a declaration of surplus property specifically for item number 1, Chautauqua McMurray School and classroom furniture, so we can, the company that comes in and takes that and recycles it and surpluses it, we can do that. Along with that, of course, we try to put one of these out or 2 of these out a year. We also ask the tech department if they have things that need to be surplused, and of course, the rest of this is effectively the tech department at their surplus items.
So 48 iPads, they
Yeah,
just don't work?
that jumped out at me too, 48
Yeah.
iPads.
Yes, I can't answer beyond that at this point, so, yeah.
And do
But I
you,
can get an itemized list if you'd like to see.
are you going to offer this out to the island first? I mean, not necessarily the furniture.
Not the furniture, the tech stuff, John Stanton, our tech director, puts it on, I think it's the state service that he puts almost everything will be on there for sale. Rarely things sell on there, but he does do that diligently.
48 iPads.
And he does offer to the farmer's market.
Really old.
Oh, correct.
It must be.
These iPads are like 6, 7 years old.
And let's just be careful about the visuals, because we hate those Facebook posts where people say, they're throwing stuff out in the dumpster.
Yeah.
So let's try not to have those visuals going on anywhere on the grounds. But it tends to be.
I think with books, that one.
That was fun.
Okay, so we're discussing this now, we'll read it and do it next meeting.
Yes.
You publish it, don't you?
Right?
You publish it, don't you?
Post it somewhere.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Okay, anything that, good on that one? Traffic safety. Michael Sullivan.
So we're recommending elimination of this
No,
program?
you are not. Let's try that again. Michael Sullivan.
We're recommending continuation of the program, purchase of curriculum, and purchase of a new car,
What?
right?
If funding allows.
If funding allows.
Here, to be the wet blanket, the finance stuff, but I think we should go ahead and advertise for the position. Obviously Pam Holman's retiring at the end of the summer, the school year. We would like to have a traffic safety education program. It's just the cost involved and can we do it? Pam actually called around, I worked with her to see if there's an off-island company that would be able to come on, contract on island. There was one that returned calls, a company out of Tacoma, 911 driving school. The price is significantly more expensive, and they would require us providing a newer car for them. So it's kind of like, well, all right, we'll might as well advertise and see what we get.
I mean, if we don't
But
get
the board,
anybody.
you're seeing this as an essential program for our community.
Yeah, I mean, but if we can't find a teacher, then, you know, but I really do think it is.
How many students are going, do we know, through that
It
program?
is generally, it's offered 4 times a year, and generally 17 to 24
Yeah.
per class.
And it's supposed to be revenue neutral, right?
It's supposed to be revenue neutral. One of the challenges we're running into is that the car cannot be replaced out of the fees.
That's
So,
a rule.
and that's what we're running up against right now, is that is a significant cost.
Can we replace the curriculum out of the fees?
Yes, we can.
Well, that's good.
I mean, my feeling is that this is something that is a benefit to offer to people, and even if the price needs to go up a little bit to cover a new curriculum, but it seems to me there's a sequence of events we have to go through. We don't want to run out and buy a car if we can't get teachers,
Right,
Yeah.
or buy a curriculum, so.
right.
We'll get the teacher first.
Michael Sullivan.
He's gonna have the time?
Let me at it. I can't think of anything else I would rather do. Not one.
Tam rested and ready.
I just want to know, do the kids in that car wear deodorant? Do they? Or do they?
The girls do.
No, the girls do. I'm out.
What is the actual timeline on
Yeah.
having to make a decision?
Well,
Because it's
I
all
will-
conditional on these steps.
If we walk out of here with an agreement that we're moving forward, trying to continue the program, then I will post tomorrow.
We have a teacher through the summer,
Right.
and maybe she would do the fall, she said.
Maybe. I don't know how long it takes with the vehicle piece, and that's pretty critical.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months. We'll go state bid, and it will take about 2 to 3 months. Because we have to order it from said dealership, whatever car we choose, and configure, we get an extra brake in there.
The car that we choose?
Well, I don't say truck, or just,
Maybe a truck's a good idea.
2 to 3 months.
Is somebody gonna be upset if we don't buy an electric car for this program?
Well, somebody is, but.
Yes, on the test.
Just thought I'd bring it up.
Self-driving.
They're not that affordable in the state bid.
Yeah,
electric
I'm sure
vehicle.
they're not.
Okay, well, I think we are all in agreement that it is an important program for the school and for the island. And if we can't swing it, we can't swing it, but we really need to try.
Yeah, that's
Make it
good.
work.
Remind me that it's been around forever.
It's been around forever.
Forever,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been asking people about their attitude about it, because I have my own opinion, but I was surprised everyone said, oh yeah, we definitely should do that, kind of regardless of what it costs. So if it's $1,000, the hassle of sending your kid to Seattle or
Let's say
going to
GoFundMe
this
page to buy the new car.
Yeah,
There you go.
seriously.
So I do think there will be continuing demand.
I can put it on Facebook.
Right.
I bet if we asked for a donated car, we'd probably get 40 of them.
Can we take a donated car? We could?
Absolutely, yeah. Our food service van, some of the facility vehicles are donated from King County Denver.
But it's diminishing.
Yeah, they're horrible vehicles, but yes.
They surplused them for a reason, and then we took them.
And then, we're like iPads.
Are there any particular requirements that to be adapted to?
The only thing is the brake in the long slip, but it should be a four-door sedan.
And pass state full inspection.
Yeah, right.
The basics, that counts out most cars.
All right, so I can't donate
Smell
a
fashion.
van.
Smells funny, yeah.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for, I know, you've got 100 other things you're doing, so thank you for working on that.
And thanks for the direction.
Okay, any other new business? Anybody got any?
I have a follow-up. I've been talking to the people who left on trips, or are leaving on trips. Japan's out soon,
Yeah?
and a couple others are going next week. We were going to have a study session for about 45 minutes on trips and getting our head around our philosophy in terms of whether we're supportive of extended national, international trips and what conditions we would support those. And I think that the group that I'm talking to would be fine and interested in coming in and talking to the board about it if you're still interested in it. Or it might be something Slade would be familiar with.
I had a really good conversation with Sarah Powell about this. And Spanish teacher in the high school. And it was a great conversation because we both said, travel is really great, and for her, she wants to go someplace where her students can be immersed in the language. Because we started talking about domestic versus international, and so it was a really great conversation, and I think that it would be worthwhile for us to have that conversation as a board with them. So I would strongly, and we were saying that the guidelines that we put out, as I said to her, and she, like these are just sort of ones we just sort of put out, and we knew that she and Filanowski and Rihanna and whoever else, Finlinger, are sort of going, they're the guinea pigs of figuring it out what doesn't work and what, and so there definitely needs to be some flexibility in that because some trips, you can't have that rigidity depending on the trip and how, ages of the kids and, the purpose of the trip. Anyway, it was an interesting conversation and we could have talked for a much longer time than we did. So my recommendation would be that we have a conversation with them and just sort of continue to explore how can we, why are we doing this? What's the benefit? Do we take baby steps? Do we just really focus on domestic travel? Because there's amazing places to see within our own country.
And some of which you can find a lot of people who speak Spanish.
And you could, exactly. So I am one vote, I am one voice, but I would recommend it.
I like the idea of having a collaborative workshop around it. I think that it's not resolved. I think the process that we've created is a start, but it kind of feels awkward both on kind of all dimensions. And I think it's also important to think about it in terms of the context of the other initiatives we have to be around racial equity and access to doing things like this and the funding. So there's a lot of components to it that need to be considered.
There are a lot of moving parts.
And it's a really sensitive topic for the community as well. And so I think for that reason alone, it's important to understand.
So Slade's going to be up here, I think, 5 days, was I saying?
I haven't actually pinned him down yet.
We know you have a full-time job.
I haven't actually pinned him.
If we could, maybe, I'm thinking maybe see if he wants to be in on the conversation.
I see this as taking some time.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I would say that I am not necessarily interested in a conversation that's just going to focus narrowly on how you do the trips, but on the broader benefit and how it fits into what we think we're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's what Sarah and I we kept sort of saying, like, you know, what's the point? What are you trying to teach here? And, you know, are you going, is there follow-up, is there a lead to the trip? Or is it just a trip that you plonk, you know, you go on the trip and then you come back, you know, that's it. Whereas like the Denlinger's trip with the Riptide, I mean, there's a lead up to it, you know, it makes sense for that trip. So, it was a good conversation about that.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern with the whole thing is the access element. I really feel like we should not be creating a subset of people who don't get to go on a trip. I mean, a real trip, like, you know, trip, not just a, you know, local trip here, but all the other kids are going to Costa Rica or
Right, like the Sensi trip.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, which of course, then we started talking about the J term, because that would be the time where everybody could, or, you know, there's the AP issue. J term.
It's going to be winter break.
Interim, 2 or 3 weeks between semesters, usually in February. We did that up in San Juan for several years. It's fun. A lot of work.
The kids are not out of school.
No,
they're getting
for
credit.
everybody to do.
Yeah, they're getting credit.
Yeah.
Everybody goes.
Yeah, exactly, it's exploratory week.
But everybody
It's like the
goes.
high school version of that.
And does the same thing. Everybody goes and does the same thing.
No, it's like
Multiple,
exploratory week,
okay.
where everybody signs up, but then of course, what Sarah was talking about is the AP, people who are in AP, the students who are in AP, they don't have, they can't leave, because they have so much they have to study, and so they can't, so, you know, maybe they have an afternoon intensive, so in the morning they're doing something fun and creative, something she was talking about, one of the math teachers was talking about, music and I'm so over my head. Music and math and this kind of thing. And so having really dynamic, interesting classes in the mornings, a big block of that, and then, you know, doing your AP work in the afternoon.
I'm always torn because I think travel is wonderful and can be a really great experience for a lot of reasons. And then I keep bumping up against, is that really the mission of public schools, is to have a travel program? Is that really core learning? Maybe it is, I could be convinced, I don't know. But I feel like it's kind of an expensive, sort of fluffy extra that has great benefits. But when you're talking about curriculum and textbooks and other things that happen right here to launch people out into the world, I kind of lean more on that side of the fence than if push comes to shove. And if we are doing the travel thing, I really feel like everyone has to be able to go on a sexy trip, or you're creating a subclass.
So,
We would call
Already,
those
yeah.
sexy trips, is what we call them.
Well, we know.
Yeah, Costa Rica is sexier than, you know, going out to San Juan.
do you have a problem with it?
You know, the risk pool is really,
Yeah,
I'd like to.
They're burning through it.
That conversation. and
yeah,
hear-
I think it's worth
I
having. a
especially want to
conversation.
hear after they come back from Costa Rica. You know, I mean, it's one thing to discuss it now, I mean, but I think it really will be informative to hear after they get back. And, you know, I think there's so much to discuss, but I had heard the Spanish teacher wants to do in the high school more trips that are like service-oriented, service projects. And I thought, well, that seems really cool, but it's really getting clear and with what's our intent and being thoughtful, because it sounds like these trips have been happening, but we've just been kind of like letting them happen without taking the time to figure out if it does fit with our mission, what is our intent, what access, you know, I was not impressed by there were efforts, but the fundraising that happened for Costa Rica, which was Puerto Rico, was people were not doing very much. You know, how could you make it more accessible to people? So anyway, I am a huge proponent of travel, but
I'm a huge proponent of travel too, but I remember a class trip I took when I was a senior in high school to Puerto Rico. I was on the East Coast. It was a couple of Spanish classes from my high school, which was about Vashon size. And we had a great time. We spent, hung out some with Puerto Rican kids. But really, it's hard for me to think of any educational benefit that came out of it. I mean, I loved it, but questionable.
It's a world citizen experience. Makes you a better citizen of the world.
Yeah, especially when you come from a very
Makes you
small.
appreciate what's going on out there. I totally get that. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
But I just have a struggle with, is that really the mission of the school district to do that? I don't know.
It's a great conversation.
It is, yeah, so to be continued, let's have the conversation. Let's have it.
I think it opens possibilities in ways like it's never think of it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I'm going to use the mighty hammer now.
do it. We're ready.
Are we supposed to be using it?
Was that him yawning? I heard two big yawns.
Okay, we are, anybody, motion to adjourn? Sorry, I'm so excited.
It has been moved.
And seconds. All those in favor?
We vote no.
Just have to, how long have you been doing this?
I was thinking.